All right. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start today's meeting with a public hearing. The public hearing is for the school district's compliance with the Children's Internet Protection Act.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board, and Superintendent Robert. Like every year, we have to do this public hearing to qualify for E-rate grant. It's to inform the parents and community that we are SIPA compliant. SIPA means Child Internet Protection Act. We have software to monitor and protect our students when they surf the internet. We actually have two filters, one in case the other one protect also. We also have a CURTEC committee that evaluate every application and every unblock and block sites. So we don't provide anything to the school unless it's verified by curriculum and technology. We monitor our activities. The principals can see the student activities and the teachers. And the teachers can control what they see, and they can tell them, like, this is the bunch of URLs that you can view or work on, and this is blocked. They can monitor. And not only that, we all can monitor and protect here and at home, as long as it's Osborne owned devices. And so if any parents and community members has any questions about this, please email contact the technology department, and we'll be happy to reply with an answer. Thank you.
That also applies for this meeting as a public hearing. This is an opportunity for any member of the public if they had any comments or questions about Child Internet Protection Act.
Yes, sorry, the voice is weird a little bit. I have echo. But yeah, so we are here to answer any questions, or they can contact us directly. I'm not gonna tell the exact name of the software due to security reason, but if there's some request, please let us know. We're happy to tell you.
All right. So we don't have any comments, right? All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to call the meeting to order. All right. We're going to start with the land acknowledgement. Board Member Thompson.
Thank you. Arizona. I lost it there. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Acoma O'odham and Peishwash people. Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside throughout the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity toward us. Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran people, desert people, the Hohugam. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern indigenous people that inhabited this area, as well as their Sonoran desert ancestors, the Hohugam.
Thank you so much. And now the Pledge of Allegiance, and I believe Osborne Middle School is here, is going to help us with that.
Thank you. And here to present for Osborne Middle School is their principal, Carol Hayes.
Good evening, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Robert, and President Ramos. I am pleased to introduce to you Ms. Georges and members of our OMS choir. Our band and choir both held their winter concerts last week, and what incredible productions they were. The band concert was held in collaboration with Encanto and Clarendon Elementary Schools, and we had a great turnout at Osborne with families all across the district coming to our campus. The choir performed at Central High School and did an outstanding job, and this evening they will perform one of their selections for us. Before we enjoy their performance, I want to take a moment to share how much I admire and appreciate all that Ms. Georges has done over the last 13 years to build and strengthen our music program. She has a clear vision of what high quality performance looks like and an incredible ability to bring out the best in her students, even with the limited time she has with them. Ms. Georges has been instrumental in the evolution of our music program, from the early days of Music and Merriment to incorporating United Sound at OMS, to expanding opportunities for students to participate in honor band and honor choir. In her career, she's had over 200 students qualify for honor band, and this past year, 10 of her students were selected to perform in the Greater Phoenix Honor Choir, with several of those students here with us tonight. Ms. Georges is an exceptional educator, but even more importantly, she is an outstanding human being. Her success comes from the deep care she has for both music and her students, and they create wonderful music together. Please help me in giving a big round of applause to Ms. Georges and the OMS Choir.
Thank you very much. I believe there were a couple of choir students that wanted to speak about their experience. Did you have something? We'll start with Arizona. She's been here before.
Hi, my name is Arizona Polito. I'm in 7th grade, and my favorite memory is meeting everyone and Miss Georges this year. My favorite song was from Honor Choir, which was All Night, All Day. I've learned to control my breath support and notes, and thank you for your time.
Is Miriam.
Hi, my name is Miriam Fudul, and I'm in 7th grade, and I wanted to share why choir is important. Choir is important to me because I got to show off my skills and make people happier, and I am grateful that I'm in choir. Thank you.
Up next is Reina.
My name is Rena Zarate, and I originally joined choir just to have some fun. Then a couple of weeks later, honors choir changed my point of view. I auditioned for honors choir and soon realized that I wanted to do this in high school as well. I'm grateful for the for the choir program. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Osborne Governing Board and Superintendent Robert. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Julia Georges, and I teach band and choir. This is my 3rd year teaching choir, and I cannot think of a better way to start my day by singing with some of the coolest kids on campus every morning. About 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed that more and more students were asking about choir. While we had a strong choir program pre-COVID, after our choir teacher left, it was kind of put on the back burner. Eventually, a student looked me dead in the eye and said, "Well, then you do it." And so that planted the seed. So then from there, I was able to attend a choir workshop that summer with Carol Krieger that was funded by the district in our grants. And I learned so much about how to teach music literacy in 4 days. Excuse me. And I knew that I could incorporate these methods into a choir, and I felt confident about bringing it into my band literature as well. I absolutely love my job. I've watched our students build confidence in themselves and find a place on campus to call home. When we get into the zone, you can feel the room enter a sense of calm that is well known with group singing. Choir is not easy, as our students can attest to, and I hold them to a high standard. However, learning how to persevere is so important for students these days. I remind my students that failure is not the opposite of success, but what happens on the way to success. I would like to acknowledge some of our honor choir students that are here today. We have Reina, Jasmine, and Griselda this evening. Can you wave? And finally, I'd like to encourage you all to continue the support that we have for music in our district, and especially assisting our students in their growth and their confidence, staying connected to the community, and becoming well-rounded individuals. And now we will sing Carry the Light.
I do want to mention that was about a third of our choir. We normally have about 30 members, so please give another round of applause for this OMS amazing choir. We are moving on to our portion of the evening where we get to recognize some of our staff members who've made a difference in the lives of our students and staff on campus. And so some of our choir students behind me are going to help recognizing these folks this evening. So if I could please have Simon come on up, please.
Sorry, get him, buddy.
And Mr. Brooks, if you join us, please.
My name is Simon Flemons, and we would like to recognize Coach Rooks for relationships. This is what some of his colleagues have to say about him. In his first year at OMS, Coach Rooks took over boys PE mid-year, which is an extremely difficult task. He took on the challenge, and he had shaped PE to be something meaningful and enjoyable for his students. Coach Rooks is always willing to lend a hand in areas other than his own, and has a team player mentality. He has created a welcoming, fun, safe environment for students to enjoy physical activity and connect with one another. He greets everyone with a smile and checks on both students and staff. His positive energy is contagious, and he creates an atmosphere where people feel comfortable, welcomed, and genuinely happy to be at OMS. We are blessed to have such a safe and compassionate adult with us on campus. Please give Coach Brooks a round of applause.
Mr. Landera, you would like to join me? Mr. Landera is recognized for his joy. This is what Mr. Landera's colleagues had to say about him. The moment you step into his classroom, it's clear that he brings joy to his students. He starts each class with a bad joke of a day, something the students look forward to every single day. He keeps students on their toes and keeps them highly engaged with his knowledge and humor. Mr. Landera is also the first to say hello, greeting everyone with a big smile. Even on challenging days, you would never know it, he consistently shows up with kindness, positivity, and a joyful spirit that makes a difference for students every single day. Mr. Landera is an inspiration to us all. He is so professional in all that he does and takes such pride in being at school every day and giving his best to his students. He is so engaging and knows so much about the history that he teaches to his students. He is one of the funniest people I know too. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Landera for making my day end with happiness.
Twins.
Hi, my name is Griselda, and I'm in 8th grade. Today I'll be talking about Miss Narsaradai, which is also my mom.
They really are twins.
She is being recognized for integrity. This is what OMS staff members had to say about Miss Narsaradai. Every time I go to the office, I see how many students feel comfortable going to her about different things in their lives. I can tell many students enjoy having her here and trust going to her about different things. Ms. Norsagaray takes the time to see students, especially when they are new to school and are monolingual, just arriving from other countries. She also volunteers for all EL nights to build relationships with students and parents. She shows up to school every day with an amazing attitude and gets everything done. Not only was she getting her own duties completed, but was filled in as our nurse for the last few months. She holds herself and our students to a high standard of integrity, doing the right thing even when it is hard. We are so fortunate to have Ms. Norsarai at OMS, and I am so fortunate to have you as my mom.
All right, you got this. And you got that. All right, thank you. Jasmine?
My name is Jasmine, and here's why Miss Q is getting recognized tonight. Miss Q has started her teaching career at OMS last year, teaching 7th grade ELA. She did a great job of not only teaching her 7th grade general educational classes, but also implementing a reading intervention class to support students who are struggling. Currently in her second year of teaching, Miss Q is teaching 8th grade math. She and Miss Sikovich make up our 8th grade math team. Miss Q has a calm yet firm presence and she makes sure that her students work to their potential each day. It is a pleasure to get to work with Miss Q. She is a team player and is a big supporter of our students and to our entire school. She has brought a positive energy to our campus and contributes to building a positive school culture. We are lucky to get to work with her each day. She's one of the best teachers I ever had. Please join me in congratulating Miss Q.
All right.
Miss Stachel is being recognized for equality. This is what some of Miss Stachel's colleagues had to say about her. Miss Stachel is rising to the challenge in her new role and making a big difference for all of us every day. She has taken the time to build relationships with students and teachers, and that pays off in the work she has been able to do around campus. She goes out of her way to make a real human connection no matter what is going on that day at work. Ms. Stachel works closely with both students and staff, often handling difficult conversations with patience and understanding. Ms. Stachel follows through on what she says and always keeps the best interests of students in mind while she's still supporting teachers. She is doing amazing. She is doing an amazing job, and we are so fortunate to have her. Give it up for Ms. Stachel.
I don't know. Thank you.
So we have one more set of flowers. Miss Georges has had a busy couple of weeks, like I said, with her concerts last week, and then we stole her from the EL Parent Night this evening. Her band was performing over there, so I'd also like to acknowledge Miss Georges with some flowers this evening. So, Miss Georges. Thank you again for your time, and please one more round of applause for our amazing OMS staff.
All right, before we go on, take a little break, we're gonna go through the governing board member reports. So we'll start with you, Board Member Blink.
All right, thanks so much. Not too much to report this week. Have been very excited to continue to read great on their behalf. I'm excited, have already made a tour of a few of the schools and have a few more left to go to. So just want to thank the principals and the teachers again. Saw some excellent teaching from some of the teachers who were honored today. And I'm excited to get to the rest of the schools very soon.
Thank you, Board Member Thompson.
Thank you. It's a busy week, or it's been a busy couple weeks, and I think it'll be busy last week here in the district. I was able to get out to a lot of stuff, the volleyball tournament over at OMS. So congratulations to Clarendon. They kind of dominated that tournament. Apparently, they were pretty good. But it was good to see everybody in there. I was able to make the Longview concert last Friday, and that was packed. There was no parking spots in the school, on the streets nearby. It was standing room only, so they really came out in force. Maybe shows the need for a performing arts center like we have in the bonds. So yeah, that would be pretty good. And then Merriment, I was able to go there and check that out, and I think a good job needs to be mentioned for Brendan, really handling the emceeing of the Osborne's Got Talent. He did a really good job with that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that, because it was a hard thing. It was hot. It was surprisingly hot for December. But he was able to keep everybody on pace and introduce everybody. And I think it was really nice showcasing kind of the district, to be able to see all the students out there. And that was by far, I think, I didn't stay for the whole thing, but you could see a ton of people there for that event, that part of it, and then it kind of dissipated after that. So it was really, people were really interested in going out there. It was a good opportunity to showcase what we have at Osborne.
Thank you so much, Board Member Hermes.
Yeah, I'll start with that. Merriment Melrose, great job to everybody. I saw Dr. Robert out there selling tickets. They were putting him to work, certainly. And they had the foundation, all the schools that had their own tents set up. That was really cool to see everybody showcasing what they were doing, and getting the kids who were from kind of the lower elementary going over to the Osborne Middle School tent to see what was going on over there, what to look forward to. I love that kind of synergy. Really appreciate Brendan also emceeing and pushing the tax credit, as you mentioned a lot of times. I really appreciate that. I think it's oftentimes forgot that you can make a dollar for dollar tax credit up to $400 through the Osborne schools. And so it's end of year. Really appreciate you plugging that. Also made it out to Clarendon for the Donuts with Dad. I think that was last week. That was a lot of fun, and got to have breakfast over there at the cafeteria, which was really good, and then got a donut on top of that. It was a really good time. So it's great to see everybody getting ready for the holidays.
Thank you so much. Clerk Ford.
Thank you, President Ramos. This one's kind of long-winded. I have a lot of notes. This month, I was able to attend the Community Vision Night that was held at Osborne Middle School. There were about 25 or 30 people that were able to show up, and just parents, staff members, governing board members were there as well, just brainstorming ways we can make our community and our schools better. So thank you to all of you who attended that. I also was able to attend the Blue Zones class. I love our Blue Zones class, and I love what our child nutrition department does. This particular class was a class about Loma Linda, California, which is the only blue zone in the United States. And I just wanted to let everybody know to follow Nutrilicious Osborne on social medias, and the next Blue Zones class will be January 29th. After that, I was able to attend a WIN group showcase at Encanto School. So for those of you who don't know, when students have pull-out services, we call them WIN groups. WIN stands for What I Need. So we don't tell students you're going to speech or you're going to reading intervention. You go to your WIN group, because everybody has individual needs, right? So I was able to attend my son's WIN group showcase for his What I Need group, and he chose to do gardening with Coach D, and his garden this time was a lot bigger than the last time. He was able to grow okra and some cilantro, so his garden was looking super cool. Thank you to all of the specials teachers who put on the Wednesday WIN groups. I know that that's an extra class, an extra set of things to get together and to prepare for our students, but it really is a really special group of kids, and I really enjoyed that. After that, thank you to the co-presidents of OEA, Ms. Gerlach and Ms. Callison. I was able to attend the OEA meeting in December. We'll touch on OEA later in our meeting. All right, about halfway there. Okay. I also was able to attend the APS Electric Light Parade. What an incredible night. We had students from all 6 of our schools attending. The bus looked incredible. I wanted to thank the transportation department. Sam and Debbie, thank you so much. and everybody here at the district office who was able to decorate the bus. It looked incredible. I wanted to shout out Mr. Martin's group of Clarendon kids. They were the loudest by far of any school. They showed so much school spirit. They were super into it. They definitely were like the leaders of all the students who were there. So thank you to the Clarendon Cougars who were able to come to the Electric Light Parade. One thing I wanted to mention, I saw the City of Phoenix post about their new electric buses. And so the City of Phoenix posted, we have 4 new electric buses for the whole city. We have more buses, more electric buses than the entire City of Phoenix. So I think that's a pretty special recognition for our district that we're doing our part to keep clean air here in Phoenix. I also watched the Alliance for the Healthier Generation webinar. This was the webinar that our consultant, Teresa Maza, put on. And they talked about the best practices in food and nutrition access, and it was all about building healthier school environments. That was a really cool one. It's really easy to brag on Osborne because there are so many cool things happening. So Teresa kind of had the same sentiments in her webinar where she talked about it's really easy to brag about our child nutrition department because we're doing so many amazing things. So thank you to Teresa for representing Osborne in that webinar. And then I also went to the winter concert at OMS. I wanted to thank Ms. Hayes and Mrs. Al Gomez for hosting. I could not find a parking space. I parked way, like, in a neighborhood way off of OMS because there were so many Encanto parents who came for that. I know that we had Encanto, Clarendon, and OMS. I stayed for the Encanto part, and then I promised my kid McDonald's, so we had to leave. But it was a really great celebration. I think it's so important that we have those kinds of meetings because it just shows, you know, taking my son to his concert, like this is where you're going to middle school. So I think it's really important that we are able to host those things within our different schools so we get that matriculation of our students. Okay, I have a part in Spanish, and this is the last one. Tengo una nota en español, pero yo escribí sin Google Translate. Okay, en una nota personal. Este trimestre yo tomé 2 clases en español del Colegio Río Salado. Es muy importante para mí que el español de mi hijo en el 3er grado no sea mejor de mí. Yo terminé las 2 clases con una A. Yo quiero hablar español para nuestra comunidad. Me encanta nuestros programas de los 2 idiomas y pienso que Osborne tiene las mejores escuelas in Phoenix. Thank you very much. It was a lot, sorry.
Muy buen trabajo.
From the Spanish teacher herself, too.
The only thing I have to report is that I also attended the Blue Zones class. If you have not attended, like Clerk Ford said, January 29th is the next one, right? And it's really fun. It's hands-on learning. You get to learn about the particular city, why it's a blue zone, and then Teresa demos a recipe, and then you get to make it yourself. So it's open to the community, to all of our parents, family members. So definitely follow Nutrilicious Osborne so that you can sign up for that, so that you can be there making recipes with all of us, right? So, all right, we'll call a short break. It's 6:08. Let's be back by 6:15. So that way people can take pictures. Thank you.
Gracias.
That's awesome.
I know.
I barely got out with an A in my 2nd class.
So, wow, that's really impressive, though.
So I took conversational Spanish because I've already taken like all the Spanish classes, but this was like just about conversational Spanish.
Now what you read like that though, I ain't even gonna hold you though.
That's awesome.
My
It
first
was online,
I'm on your head.
so like jumping out like the call, like having a
not even like there's like the assignments and then you like heard. Hi, honey.
6:15. Thank you to those who have decided to stay here and, accompany us through the rest of the meeting. So since we don't have any call to the public, we are going to move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Do we have any questions or discussion around the consent agenda? All right. So I do have, there's some typos in the minutes for the work study for December 2nd. And so I've already let Lisa know what those typos are so we can pull it and then we can.
I don't think there's a need to pull it. Maybe just with the changes that have been made. Let's just make sure that if there's a revised motion, that it includes any changes to the minutes as directed.
Perfect. They were really small typos, but I want to make sure that it doesn't change the meaning of what we were trying to say. But so then, do we have a new motion then, or?
I move to approve the consent agenda with the edits that you had mentioned.
Okay, perfect.
Second.
Perfect. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion carries. All right, we'll move on to we're actually going to skip out on the board presentation. We're going to be doing that next month once this semester has completely finished, so that way we can have the most complete district attendance numbers.
Correct.
Perfect. And so now we're going to be moving to the administrative reports. That's informational. Do we have any comments, questions on those reports?
I did see one thing that caught my eye in the administrative reports, which was the amount of students that we have on individual education plans. We have 344 students on IEPs, and I love it. I love that we're able to accommodate and modify for our students with learning disabilities. When a lot of folks talk about school choice and the whole voucher movement, $1 billion, a lot of folks don't remember and don't seem to understand that where those vouchers go don't necessarily need to take our kids, don't need to take our kids on IEPs, don't need to take our kids on 504s and practice exclusion of students with learning disabilities. And so I really wanted to give a big shout out to all of our teachers who work so hard with our students with learning disabilities, whether they're mainstreamed or they're in resource classrooms. Osborne has an exceptional special education department, and I'm really proud of the work we do for all students here in Osborne. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to informational updates, OEA.
Good evening, President Ramos, members of the Governing Board, and Superintendent Dr. Robert. We are happy to provide you with an OEA update since our last Governing Board meeting. During these updates, we will continue to share information related to our monthly general meetings, union activity, collected feedback we have received, as well as any pertinent information or recommendations about board agenda items. Part of the continual ongoing work that OEA does is to support employees through their advocacy needs. We will provide month-by-month totals that reflect the number of active advocacy cases for each month. For November, we have 7 advocacy cases. Since the start of the 2025-2026 school year, OEA has provided support for a total of 17 cases. Our December meeting was held at Encanto Elementary School. We were joined by Board Member Ford, and during the session we reviewed background information on the Meet and Confer process, along with the recent update from the December 2nd Governing Board work study. Staff shared input and feedback on Meet and Confer. We look forward to the upcoming Governing Board work study focused on Meet and Confer. Okay. No, you're fine. All right. We do have some recommendations and feedback. one pertaining to subcap updates. As we conclude the first half of the school year, OEA would like to reflect on feedback that has been shared by certified staff across sites. One recurring concern is the implementation of substitute caps. In May 2025, OEA spoke during a call to the public, noting that subcaps were implemented as a budgetary solution without clearly communicated parameters, and urged the governing board to monitor this into the next school year. In August 2025, OEA shared that staff reported feeling pressure around attendance when substitute caps were in place, and shared that the specific numbers tied to subcaps had not been consistently shared across campuses. Staff continue to report that substitute cap messaging, including classrooms being split without additional compensation, creates pressure around the use of earned leave. Educators' contractual leave benefits exist independently of financial strategies. We encourage the board to carefully evaluate this practice, particularly where it is not outlined in policy, and to consider its impact on employees. The second part is frontline leave data. We also note that the leave data pulled from Frontline, our substitute request portal, and shared in the governing board packet, does not distinguish between sick leave and annual leave, as there is no separate sick leave selection in the system. As a result, the data shown in the packet does not reflect any sick leave use. We recommend adding a sick leave drop-down selection in the Frontline platform to ensure future data is reliable. We are proud to share that the Osborne Education Association now holds majority status among certified staff. This milestone reflects the trust educators have placed in OEA to advocate for professionalism, collaboration, and strong working conditions. With this responsibility, we remain committed to engaging with all Osborne's employees to ensure that every voice is heard, all needs are represented, and diverse perspectives inform our work as a united staff. And with that, we conclude the OEA update.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to our action items. And so first we have the approval of preschool tuition rates for 26-27 school year.
Yes, and we have Ms. Toscano on call. This winter time has been brutal, so lots of sicknesses coming up, and we wish her well. But she is on call if there are any questions, but I'll go on ahead and present the following 3 action items on her behalf. The first action item is for approval of preschool tuition rates for the 26-27 school year. And so Colleen has been working in collaboration with Stephanie on making sure that our tuition rates, number one, are able to meet operational costs, and whether or not we need to have any increases in tuition rates in order to satisfy those operational costs. And so this proposed tuition rate reflects no changes to our current tuition. So you can see from the board page the discounts for Osborne employees, sibling discounts, different opportunities for affordability. You know, we recognize that we're asking a certain amount, and it's a competitive rate that we're asking just to make our operational costs, but we recognize that not all families are able to meet that. Yet there are significant opportunities through DES eligibility in our preschool programs, through Quality First scholarships, through community preschool scholarships, through funds that we have through early literacy, or not early literacy, the HQEL, yeah, the high quality early learning grants that we have. And so there are numerous opportunities for partial and full scholarships available based on income eligibility. So with the same proposed rate, we recommend the governing board approve the tuition preschool rates for the 26-27 school year.
All right, do we have any questions, comments?
A couple of questions. On the after school, the 3 to 5:30, what sites do we currently have after school at, and what sites do we not have after school for the preschool? If you need to get back to me on that question, I'm okay with that.
Good evening. So for preschool students, Encanto and Montecito has Amazing Arts as after school. That's an after school vendor that's used.
Okay.
That preschool students.
They
do
take
attend.
3-year-olds?
They don't take 3-year-olds.
Okay, they take
No.
4-year-olds?
Yes.
Okay, got it. But if 3-year-olds, that's tough because it's It's, working families get out at, it's tough. I couldn't pick my
It is.
kid up at 3 o'clock,
Big advocate for early childhood, I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
and then that after school support would be fabulous.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Something to work on.
Extended
Can I
day.
piggyback on that? So this aftercare of $65 a week, that's different than Amazing Arts, though, right?
No, I don't think that should.
We're looking at the board packet, page 162.
Colleen, are you hearing the question about after school care on the sheet? There's a 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. at $65 a week that's listed there.
Was it Montecito? We don't remember. We don't have that.
Go on ahead and say that. I'm putting you up to the microphone. Can you repeat the question?
Go ahead. So I just want to confirm that the Amazing Arts is different than the $65 a week after school care.
Old from when we had that at Montecito.
What is that? What is that $65 per week referring to, Colleen? Because that's not for Amazing Arts. Their rates are kept separate. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, Colleen. Okay, go ahead.
Correct. That would be our rate if we were running an after school based on need and availability of staff and student parent interest. That would be our rate for an after school care program through Osborne. That's different than the Amazing Arts fees.
But we don't have one running.
No, we don't have one running right now.
So Longview, Solano have community dual language preschool programs, but there's no like 3 to 5:30 care. Is that right? Okay. So it probably makes it tough to attract families over there.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I would say our numbers look pretty decent. It's always nice to have, some type of extended day or an aftercare program. For most districts, that's something that's like a whole separate, community program, that's based. So, yeah.
This last is just more of a comment than a question. I'd love to see us expand our preschools. I was just talking to prospective parents the other day, and they're like, well, we listen to what a preschool tells us kind of where to go. We don't really know where to go. So we can get our hooks into these families early, at 3, 4. If we expand those, we can keep those kids from age 3 to age 13. And so I know that's difficult, but if it's kind of paying for itself, hopefully this tuition rate, and I'm really glad we don't have to increase it. I'd love to see us try to figure out how we increase it, bring more in, and not every private preschool in our area in the Osborne district is kind of pushing students our way. We know that. So if we can expand and get those families in, early, I think it can really be a component to help our enrollment.
Absolutely, it'd be lovely to have expansion of preschool programs, but also we have to look at what the demand is. So when we've made expansions, from 4-year-old down to 3-year-old, I know last year we struggled to keep enrollment in both of those classes. So I feel that our current classes that are offered are meeting our community's demand thus far. Would you feel that that's?
Yeah, and most parents that are able to come and pick up their child.
Yeah, that's the challenge, I think, is that we exclude a lot of parents by saying you've got to get your kid, your 3-year-old at 3 o'clock. And, other preschools they're kind of meeting parents where they're at and saying, yeah, you can come until 6 o'clock. And I've heard that from parents of saying, well, I would think about it. I would like to. It's closer by, but I can't pick my kid up at 3 o'clock or sometimes even 5:30. They just like that, need that extra half an hour. So, it's something to look at maybe part of the strategic plan as we're talking to parents. What are those roadblocks? How can we as a district meet families where they're at and try to take those roadblocks down?
Yeah, and the same could be said for 5-year-olds. PAC doesn't accept students until they're 6, and not even in their 6-year-old year, but until the start of the session after their 6th birthday. So if session starts on January 6th and they turn 6 on January 8th, then they're eligible in March during the 4th session, right? So
Yeah, that's wild. Absolutely, we got to fix that too.
Just really quickly on the tuition, when was the last time we increased tuition for preschool?
last year.
Last year.
Yes.
Okay, so this
so
is steady from
this
last
is
year.
this is steady from last year.
Okay.
I was wondering if you could talk about the enrollment numbers that we have. Like, how many students do we have in each of those schools?
Across
Ballpark. It doesn't have to be
we're
exact.
Across the 5 classrooms, we have about 90 students.
Okay.
So there's average, I think our lowest class right now is 13, and then the highest is 19.
Okay.
Can you
So
just
we're breaking even on that, and I'm assuming that's where we're pricing out so that we're can essentially make sure that we're paying for our costs on that.
We've been very fortunate to have grants for Longview and Solano. We also have Quality First scholarships for Encanto. And then we have students that are on DES. Included in those numbers, we have a 17% rate of inclusion. So we have some students that are on IEPs that we are able to be fortunate to have the funds from the Department of Education. So it's been something that's been very beneficial. And I'm just talking about community preschool, not the primary program for Montecito.
That's a good match to our K-8 numbers too. That 17%. That's Sarah. That's about our rate, right? 17%. Yeah.
On that, just to pick up on that, and this might have been explained in years past, and I can't recall, but on when you look at our the enrollment report, it says we have 29 enrollment in our preschool. And you're saying
That's through funding, through state funding. So those 29 students are students on IEPs. That's not representative of paid tuition. That's in our developmental preschool.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why that only shows up in Longview and Solano.
Correct.
Okay.
The 3 and 4-year-olds that come to our schools are not counted in the numbers that you get. So you don't even have the 3s and 4s that are at Montecito as well.
Okay.
So the 2,200 plus students that we have in Osborne, we have more students than that, more bodies and chairs. They're just not counted in ADM.
Got it. Thank you.
Another quick question for you. In terms of just anecdotally, the conversations that you're having with parents, in terms of our cost structure, how are we doing competitively compared to other districts? Is kind of question 1. Question 2, are we, given the programs that are available to help students who need tuition assistance, are we turning away students who, are there families that are coming to us, say we want to go to preschool here, but they can't? Are we turning people away because of costs?
I don't
Before the answer on that, Steph, can you make sure that your mic is on?
Sorry,
Okay.
I've been fighting a cold and it's very loud. So as far as, I would say we definitely meet the needs of the families that come to us, that decide to stay. Sometimes it is prohibitive as far as the scheduling goes. And thinking about costs, though, most of the programs that are around us that offer like a drop off at 7 and pick up at 6, they range between $1,100 to $1,200 per month. So given where we are in our tuition, then we are pretty competitive. And again, like I've said, we've been able to be so fortunate to have so many different inflows of funding that have been helpful to families. As an advocate for early childhood, I will say we need more support. There's been a reduction in federal funding, and we're also going to see that happen coming into this next year. I was speaking because we have the preschool development grant right now for 2 of our schools, and I was speaking with the Department of Education specialist, because that one is sunsetting for us, about what kind of opportunities are going to be coming up. From the federal level, they've reduced that funding. So if Arizona is awarded, which not all states are being awarded that grant again, which for many years were, it will be much less, and most likely it will not be a type of structure that trickles down to the family level or student level. It will be something that will be much more minimal as far as numbers go for their funding, that they'll probably be able to maybe sustain some support staff and provide professional development. So that's been a disappointment, because we know what our students need and we know the power of early childhood.
That's right.
So in thinking about future forward, the HQEL funds that we were awarded 2 years prior, we were able, because of the structure of that funding, we were able to actually retain some funding. So I put funding, working with Colleen, on reserve. So we're in the position to come into this next year and still be able to offer scholarships to the 2 schools. And the way that we're going to be doing it so that we can make the most of the funding is on kind of a scaled level. So that, kind of what we do with Quality First. So we have we have 5 scholarships for Quality First. And instead of just doing full scholarships, we've offered partial scholarships so that we could then benefit, 10 families instead of just 5. So we'll have kind of the same idea moving into next year.
And have we done an analysis? Does the 8,000, what percentage of the total cost of educating each student comes from that $8,000? Like, is it covering is the tuition cost covering the total cost of the student?
Tuition cost is covering the salaries of the teacher as well as the assistant. That has to be, because it is monitored by, we have to maintain a ratio of 13 to 1 in the classroom. So there's a teacher and an assistant in the classroom. So it covers the salaries of the individuals that are in the classroom.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll move on to the next item, which is approval of open enrollment capacity for 26-27 school year.
Yeah, so the district is required to provide notice of open enrollment. This is not the numbers, but just this is notifying the community that we will have open enrollment for the 26-27 school year. This notice has a listing of the schools as well as programs. So each of our 6 schools, as well as separate programmatic open enrollment for the dual language program and for special education programs.
All right. Any questions, comments?
How many students, like what percentage are on open enrollment?
I can get an exact answer for it. It's a simple query that I don't know the number offhand, but the number's been increasing. So my early guesstimate would be more than 40%.
And is that out of district or including open enrollment? Like
That's all open enrollment. So I can get a better breakdown.
Because I think there's a lot of students who might be, in the Encanto district, but maybe they're going to Longview and it's considered
Correct.
open enrollment, but they're still Osborne students.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be interested in the out of district
Yes.
coming in for that.
Okay.
And so what are the key dates to look out for this coming spring, in terms of when can families outside of the district, I don't know if the correct words, apply or register, and then when will families outside the district, find out that they're in?
Yes, and if you give me one quick second to, so we'll be opening up enrollment when we return in January, on the first day that we return in January. So that's when,
January, the first day back at school, or January 1st?
first day back, so that,
School.
we have
January 6th.
personnel that are here to answer questions,
Got
if there are inquiries about.
And then when will families find out?
That's what I'm pulling up right now. If you give me one quick second.
Yeah, take your time.
So last year when we did this, I don't see exact dates here, but last year when we had open enrollment that opened up in January, we actually opened a little bit earlier in December last year, but it was by the beginning of February that notifications were able to go out.
All right. Could we put on we got a pretty nice open enrollment page on our website. Could we put that on there, just added sense of transparency and I think it reduced maybe some of the anxiety from some, especially young
Prospective
parents,
families, yeah.
prospective families, because they're like, I don't know when I'm going to find out. The people get nervous, they start looking elsewhere. If we could just add those kind of key dates on there, or I don't know if it's FAQ, at least that's the most frequent asked question that I get is, hey, when can I submit my application or registration, and when will I find out? Do I
Right,
need to
and
start
that's for new enrollees. In terms of those that are currently on open enrollment for the upcoming school year, that process happens at the end of the school year. And if there were going to be any notification of not returning on open enrollment, that would happen at the very end of the school year. But there are certain factors, discipline, compliance with attendance expectations that might impact decisions on continuing status with open enrollment. That notification happens at the end of the school year. But for new families enrolling, yes, that transparency and we talked a lot about those mechanisms towards making it easier with the entire enrollment process. So
we can get those dates up on
yes,
our
we can.
page. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right. Do we have a motion for item B?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And we'll move on to our last action item, which is facility use fee schedule.
Yes, so you will see our new facility use fee schedule that will, this isn't for the 26-27 school year. This is actually effective January 1st of 2026. So looking to put this, we don't have to wait for the school year. We can begin this fee schedule with the calendar year. So this is, Colleen had a pretty comprehensive look at our rates, which were significantly below neighboring districts in terms of the what we were able to generate in terms of funds. So gave it a revised look, looking at the different fee schedule groups, Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and you can see on the, not on the board page, but on the page that actually has a fee schedule in it, you can see the for activities considered being associated with or sponsored by the district is that Group 1. So nonprofit supporting specifically Osborne students, your PTOs, your community education, in-service or job-related training for school personnel is considered that Group 1. Group 2 would bring about other nonprofit organizations, churches, colleges and universities, homeowners, meetings, athletic clubs, and Group 3 are for nonprofit groups, profit-making groups, or commercial groups. Those nonprofits that don't qualify under Group 2 is that Group 3. So that Group 1 has no fees associated with it. Groups 2 and 3 have a fee. We also have a differentiated breakdown between fees that are happening on school days when we already have staff here, as opposed to weekends when we don't have staff and have to bring someone in. And we looked at some other school districts to have competitive rates. Our rates were well below, probably, I can't even get into so many times less, but they were significantly below what our neighbors were. In looking at certain school districts, I think we looked at Creighton, Washington, Phoenix Union, although I do have to say, as in terms of fields, Phoenix Union rates, renting one of our fields is significantly different than renting a high school field or a high school auditorium. But we took a look at school districts around us to make sure that we have rates that are generating more funds for us and competitive in that sense.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments?
How much revenue are we generating from renting out our facilities?
Did you hear that question, Colleen? I think this may be one that we need to get back to you with an update, but the question was, what if you have a sense of our total fee generation through this schedule?
It varies year to year, but approximate range is around anywhere from 80,000 to 120,000 a year.
And then where in the budget does that go?
It all goes into a designated facility use or facility rental fund, which is Fund 515.
Any other questions?
Yes, I did have a question on the nonprofit aspect. First of all, I've had to do this similar thing, and it is a lot of work. So thank you for the people involved in it. My question is about the nonprofit organizations with activities for Osborne students, and I'll just be specific. I don't want the Cub Scouts to get mad at me, but the Cub Scout, my son was involved in the Cub Scouts here at Osborne, but there was a lot of students who were not Osborne students who were part of that. There were a few, but is there a threshold or something like that? And I'm kind of curious as to which group they fall into, because if it's just a organization that has school-age children, but they're all from Washington, for example, then I'm not sure why we would be giving that one for free. So I don't know. I've seen other districts where there's a threshold. If 60% of your roster is in the school district, then they'll be treated as kind of that group one. But if you've got one kid from Osborne, but the other 19 are from another district, should we be giving them the free room essentially? So I'm just trying to curious as to where organizations like that would fall, where it's kind of a mixed of students, some in the district and some out.
Yeah. Great question. The past practice has been majority. So we've looked at 50% or more Osborne students would then fall in the non-fee group one. But I could definitely add that to this fee schedule so that it's very clear that it would have to be the majority of Osborne students.
I think that'd be great if we could have that in writing, kind of something on that.
We can do that. So with the, let's just call that an amendment to this proposal.
Okay.
You can add that on when you're ready to make a motion.
Perfect.
Yeah, one question on my side. I'm just curious about the marginal costs of each of these activities for like group 2 and group 3 specifically. Like, do the costs cover the full expense of custodial, building, staff, those types of things? I just want to make sure that we're not subsidizing activities at the expense of, funds for our students.
Yes, so in addition to looking at the comparison of the neighboring districts around us, I also looked at Madison. However, Madison's fees were significantly higher than Creighton and Washington and where we were currently at. And I wasn't sure that we wanted to move that far all as one. Like, we haven't revised our fee schedule since 2017. And so that would be a big jump. So just know that Madison's fees are still quite a bit higher than these, depending on the type of facility, room, purpose, auditorium type.
That makes sense. I think I'm more looking at it from the cost perspective. Like, do you know how much an hour of use of our facilities cost the district?
So we look at the cost per square footage. It's hard to really drill down because when it's during a normal operating day, those costs are very different than if we're having to power up the entire system. Utilities turned on for an entire school for one classroom on a weekend is different. So, but we do have a cost per square foot for like electricity, gas, water, things like that. And so the hourly charges cover that within those group 2, group 3. We will not be covering costs for group 1. There's no fee associated there. So we technically are eating those operational costs for those group 1.
Because it's a direct benefit to the school and to the district. And I think part of this too is not just those, the costs of the utilities, but also the cost of the employee that would have to be there. So that's, that goes into the price setting as well.
It'd be helpful to know just how much we are subsidizing per hour of time, including the staff time, like what that cost actually is. If it's a super low amount, then even some of the group 1, parsing out the percentages of students isn't as big of a deal. If it is like a pretty significant cost to us per hour that a third-party group is in the building, then that's something we probably should take a closer look at.
And a big part of that too is looking at the weekend or holiday time, because you're definitely calling in employees not on their regularly scheduled hours. Whereas if it's something that's happening after hours, we have night custodians that are there, that are, doing maintenance of the building, that'll be there to close out. Whereas if it's on a Saturday, we've got to call someone to come in, open the building, be present during that time, clean clean the facility afterwards and lock up. So
I had a
building
question
those
just to,
costs into the weekend and holiday schedule.
to clarify. So if I am an organization in group 3, for example, and I'm renting a classroom, I'm paying $40 an hour for the custodial services every time I rent that, plus the room rate, right? Is that how I'm looking at that? So
Correct. For group 2 and group 3, that would be correct.
So, I mean, really, you can add for 2 and 3. You can kind of add $40 an hour to the top part, if you will. So it's covering the employee costs, and then there's not that much, especially if you already have, like you talked about, the building is already up and running. You know, you just open an extra room for them to rent it. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know the numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if we made some money on that because it's kind of, we already have the fixed costs there. The custodian is probably there anyway, and now we're charging 40 on top of that. So it'd be the weekend
Correct.
I'd be curious about for something like that.
Correct. And I would add that for sure, the $40 per hour, we're not subsidizing any of that. That's based on our highest staff's overtime rate, based on who we know which staff members do rentals, sign up as the custodial to open and close the building and clean up on those rentals on the weekends and holidays. And so that 40 an hour is built on to cover not just their salary, but their associated EREs, their benefits tied to those wages. It's definitely built in to cover that at overtime.
Okay, perfect. That answers my question. Yeah, thanks.
And a little bit of profitability isn't bad either.
Great.
And given that, ADM, we can't change the rates on ADM, but we can on this. And so if it's going to be, this is a way of protecting our asset or, being able to maintain our asset.
Yeah, and I guess I'll kind of speak on maybe the flip side of that a little bit of, I love getting folks on campus and love getting groups, outside groups, getting people on campus, seeing our beautiful schools. I think Madison's able to charge more because they have a lot of demand. They have a lot of groups and coming in and different nonprofits that are just kind of focused in that area. And I think, that helps enrollment when you're getting people onto your campus. And so I think this kind of hits the sweet spot right here, but I just caution to going any higher because I don't want to discourage people from coming onto campus. We already have the pretty significant insurance requirement that is really difficult for a lot of nonprofits to deal with, like, neighborhood groups can be nearly impossible to deal with that. So I just really want to make sure I'd love to see us having more groups on campus and more people seeing the wonderful facilities that they paid for with their property tax dollars through the bond.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the incredible work of getting these numbers updated. Do we have a motion for action item C?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Great. And so now we are at the last part of our meeting, which is the board development.
Thank you, Colleen.
I hope you feel better, Colleen. And so here we read step 3. And so there are some reflection questions that were posted on our board package. And so I'd like to open it up to the rest of the board members to see if they have any comments or responses to these questions.
And the second question that I posted wasn't the clearest as I was rereading it and preparing for preparing for discussion tonight. So the chapters had a lot to speak about student outcomes. So first, just wanting to see your thoughts on what was mentioned in the chapters about student incomes, but also you have requested, there are 2 pieces of information or 2 sources that we use. This discusses the governing board as well as the superintendent and evaluation. So one piece that you've sought is an instrument for the governing board, which, by the way, Violetta and I received this week from ASBA, and so I wanted to wait till after this meeting. We'll be sending out that survey for board evaluation after this meeting, but There's the board evaluation, which is one means of looking at yourself in light of student outcomes, and there's also the superintendent's evaluation. So thinking about that in terms of student outcomes, just looking for your general thoughts and reflections on how you hold yourselves or hold me accountable for student outcomes, whether some of your thoughts are based, if you have any thoughts based on the instruments we're using, or if you just want to make commentary based on the text. But those aren't mandatory questions to answer. It's just some food for thought as you are processing. But there were 3 good chapters, one on effective progress monitoring, one on evaluating board performance, and one on evaluating superintendent performance. So I turn it over to you guys for your discussion.
All I'll say is the newest board member and who's ramping up here. I'm really enjoying this, and I think it's incredibly critical that we turn this kind of method on as quickly as we can. You know, I'll just give one example from observing. I loved in the board packets reading the updates from the schools today, because it's so helpful for us to see what's happening in the schools, what we're celebrating. But what it didn't have in there were the performance metrics that we're really focused on for those schools. And, you know, again, just as the book and the question here says, you know, where are we? How did we get here? What's worked? Where do we have to improve upon? And I think as a board, you know, understanding our goals as to what are the actual things that we need to drive forward, setting those in stone, and then holding ourselves accountable and spending 50% of our board meeting really talking about how we're getting there. And then, of course, you know, again, our board packet also talked about a lot of the great external resources that we're using, the NAU students that we can pull in and have at our disposal. Are we aligning our resources to those goals that we want to accomplish for our student outcomes? So, you know, I really encourage us to start the work of defining those goals right away, and then spending our board meetings really talking about those outcomes that we choose to define.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to point it right at the right time, because we're right in the smack in the middle of strategic planning. And I read this and I think a lot about, you know, how important it is. We're going into we're working on a new 5-year strategic plan, and how important it is for that to put in a lot of effort and to put a lot of work in that strategic plan to make sure that we have SMART goals that align with our values, and that we've got those, and you know, so that the community, everybody knows what those are, what we'll be measuring over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. And I think kind of for the first question here, I think it kind of dovetails with that of, I think a lot of times as a board or other boards, you do things out of good intentions. You say, hey, let's do this because we think it's going to work. But I'm not sure we take enough time to look back on it and say, well, did it actually work? And I think that's really what they're talking about, how we need to focus more on the past, is we can have all these good intentions, but if we don't say, well, you know what, we spent $6 million on that. Did it change our numbers at all? Did it change our test scores? Did it change our outcomes? And if it didn't, well, let's stop doing that, and let's figure out what works. And I think if you can look at the past and look at the data and see that will help us moving forward. So I'm like Ben said, I'm very excited to kind of set those goals and those targets to say, hey, let's point ourselves toward these outcomes, because we need to improve the outcomes for our students.
One thing to point out, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just with the chapter about superintendent performance, this will be your first year being involved in you know, my evaluation, and so you know, I'll be sending out what my evaluation looks like, and you can, you know, kind of take a look at it. When we look at evaluating our teachers, you know, there's a 19-point evaluation tool that we use. 12 of those 19 are about instruction that's happening in the room itself. 4 of those are about the classroom environment. 3 of them are about the planning of the instruction. So like 15 out of 19 directly about the lesson that was seen, and the other 4 about the entire learning environment that made that possible, right? So looking at the superintendent evaluation that we, you know, worked with NIET in discussion about that, we changed the evaluation tool that that you use in evaluating me, so that there are, you know, 5 or 6 general sections, one on school mission, vision, and strategic goal setting. but an entire set on instructional needs, an entire set on capacity building, including collaborative practices, continuous improvement that's happening, as well as goals around ethics and integrity, school operations and management. Like, those are important facets of the superintendency as well. But there's a large portion of that that is focused towards those student outcomes. So, and as we look to the instrument that we're going to be using this year for that board evaluation, it'll be interesting in light of this reading, in light of this conversation, to look at how much of that is focused on student outcomes. And then choosing the appropriate tool if that's not it, if that's not the one for you.
I guess my question would be if we can see how our students are performing. I know that our students are have already taken their benchmark testing. If we could see the data from that and see where we're at, see how our students are growing, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we just finished up in December, and actually Melissa did a fantastic job in leading principals and master teachers through protocols for when they return at looking at that student data. And we will, knowing how important this conversation's been for us over the past few months, look forward to bringing that data to you, as well as some of our analyses of that.
For the student data, do we, and just question, do we educate our parents on how to analyze that data?
So this is a new tool that's being used this year. And Melissa, feel free to come up to the microphone if there's anything that you want to add into this. I won't even start then. Look at how excited she is coming up. So
It's nice to come up here and speak. So yeah, hello everyone. So we're using the STAR assessments tool. It's really similar in the assessments we've used before. They're all universal screeners. They've got computer adaptive assessments and then teacher one-on-one assessments. And that's, we need those to be compliant with statutes for move on reading. And so it meets all of those. This was our first time using it. And so we sent home reports at conferences. So even though our students did test a little earlier in the fall, a couple of schools did send them out ahead of time with the teachers messaging and offering to answer questions on Dojo. But for the most part, we waited until conferences to get those reports out so that the teachers could talk through them with families. And then the students just took them, so you'll be receiving, if you have a child in the district, you'll be receiving one with their report cards for the end of semester. And so our hope was, again, that it's the same report, and so what they learned from the teacher and the end of quarter one for fall break, that they would know about the report. Other questions?
And if a parent prefers them in a different language, do we have the capacity to do that?
Yeah, so we only choose reports that are available in English and Spanish, and so we encourage them to just print both and send both home for everybody.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry, I know I went on a tangent there, but I think it's important everybody understands the reports, right? Just like we are going to be evaluating ourselves, and I don't know. I think for me it was, as I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, we did just bring up the board self-evaluation, so it was great to see it in the book. I think part of the work that we're doing with the strategic planning goes super aligned with this. What are the next steps for the strategic planning?
yeah, and just got a board question this week about that, and was waiting to have this discussion tonight, and moving forward with it. So we had our first session in the just a couple weeks ago, like Member Ford spoke about, being present, and Ben, you were there too. So thank you for being present for that. During January and February is when, and it was part of what I discussed on that evening, and I believe I've mentioned some of this to you, but the next step is having some focus group sessions. So, we had that large invitation out district-wide, but I would like to have some focus sessions during the months of January and February, making sure that there's representation from all the campuses, but also thinking about a focus group on prior enrollees in the district who have made the decision not to continue, because we need that input as well in terms of you did choose Osborne at one time, and now you've chosen something else. And so, there's got to be some valuable input that we can gather. So, one focus session on that. We're also going to be doing some surveying of current families, as well as, not everybody's able to make it to an evening or to a focus session, but there should be a universal way. So two pieces. Number one being to all of our current families, and number two, out to the community as well, because there are families that are, may have young ones. There are our constituents that have supported us, that live here within Osborne and have supported us, and wanting to get their input on the product that we're delivering. And so surveying and focus groups are the next input sessions, and then using that for the, we will have that input that came through the vision night, more input through surveys, and more input through the focus sessions, and then getting together a group in the later part of the spring for the SMART goal writing, utilizing all of that data that, once it's been collected and analyzed, with an intention of rolling forward strategic goals for the upcoming school year for the governing board to approve prior to the next school year beginning.
Thank you.
Just one thought here, and this is not a completely fleshed out thought, but again, a big part of the book, and just for the audience, the main premise of the book is that the work of the board is student outcomes and improving student outcomes. I think a lot of the community feedback sessions are critical to really talk about what services and needs parents and the community want. But when it comes to student outcomes, it's pretty clear what we're measuring at that point and kind of getting goals together there. Can we expedite that process a bit and just start maybe as a work session, like having a conversation about what those, student outcome, academic outcome goals that we want, and then maybe just as a pilot project, start measuring and, using some of our board time to evaluate against some of those goals.
Yeah, and most certainly, and a lot of that work has been done already and is in place right now. As an administrative team, when we came together this summer, we had 4 areas that we were looking at in terms of goals towards enrollment, attendance, talent, and academic goals. And so I believe at the you weren't present for it. It was right before you came on board, but at our board retreat, we had the teaching and learning team share those academic goals that we had for the year, and they're written as SMART goals in terms of not only those ASA, the end of year assessments, but also those mid checkpoints. And also, ASA doesn't cover all of our students. That's 3rd through 8th grade students, but we can't wait until 3rd grade to start figuring out how students are doing. So part of those SMART goals written on the academic front were some of those early literacy pieces, specific grade level by grade level for K, 1 and 2. What are the measures that we're looking at? Based on where we were, and not only the growth, but also the proficiency expectations by the end of the year. So I'll be glad to share those with you and reshare it with the entire board.
Actually, I think it might be, and y'all can say no, this wouldn't work, but it might be a good idea if we get updates on those, like as a presentation, maybe quarterly, just so that we can see what progress is happening and to see if there's anything that maybe we need to, as a board and, as a district, start looking into so we can make those improvements.
Right. And I think this, with moving to the STAR data too, we're going to be in a really good place to doing that first update for you in January, as we will have done some the data is very fresh, like hot off the presses right now. So as we do that first analysis and be able to bring you through kind of the process that we're going to go through with our teachers on that first day that we return back on January 5th. That's not a student day, that's a teacher work day. And so part of that time is going to be some analysis with their principals going through some of that data. So.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you all so much. And I think we have one last part.
One more section.
All right.
There's
So
2, I think.
Is it
Oh,
two
are there
more?
2?
There's 4 and 5, I believe.
Oh, yeah. So we'll do 4.
We're moving at a good pace, though.
Yeah, we'll focus on just step 4, which is aligning resources. And then we'll have one more step, which will be pretty short, but yeah, I think if we just focus on step 4 for next time.
Yeah, because I look at that step, well, maybe we do 4 and 5 because it's only like 6 pages or 8
Yeah.
pages, that last chapter, so. Or do you want to just keep it to
Let's
4?
just do 4, yeah.
Okay.
Because there's also a conclusion. Maybe we
yeah.
can, yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll do step 4 for next time. Thank you all for doing the work. And then last agenda item is future agenda items. So we'll start with Board Member Blink.
Yeah, thank you so much for this past discussion. I really appreciate that. I think hopefully building off of what President Ramos was saying before, I would love to see another update from our schools, whether it was a written update this time, but it'd be great to see those goals that were set, those academic goals by school, either in written form or in a board presentation, just so that we can have a baseline of kind of where we are with the goals that we've already set.
Perfect, thank you. Board Member Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like an update. I know Dr. Robert had talked about the new safety protocols, the I Love You Guys Foundation, and kind of an update on that and see how it's implemented in the schools. So in the next couple months, if we could have a kind of an update on how that's all being rolled out, that'd be nice.
Thank you. Board Member Hermes.
I'd like to have a update or maybe a presentation related to our social workers. I know we're nearing the end of our 3-year cycle for the grant. I'm sure or pray that it gets renewed and we have all of that, but I think it'd just be a nice time to kind of highlight and maybe look into how our social workers have impacted our student success and our campuses.
Thank you. Clerk Ford.
Not an agenda item, but I believe that we had asked you, Dr. Robert, for the parent survey data as it stands today. If we could get that, that would be great, but no new agenda items from me. Thank you.
Perfect, then none for me. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 7:12. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I also want to make sure I get these signatures right here.
Oh, shoot, we didn't sign the...
Good, how are you doing? If she would have just left when she was supposed to.